On today's Locked On NBA Game Night, what NBA team are we most excited to watch this season?
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night. With insights only the hosts of Locked On can provide.
It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. We're here for you after every single night in the association. Starting on Tuesday all the way through the end of the finals, we'll have game coverage for you every single day. No games today, so we're going to have a broader topic for you. The teams we're most excited to watch. We're your Saturday duo. Rylan Stiles here, Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin Shaw, Locked On Knicks. And Gavin, the next time we talk, we have NBA basketball for these everydayers. How excited are you just for basketball to be back in the regular season?
Dude, the juices are flowing, if that's not too gross of an analogy. I just been watching preseason. I don't want to spoil too much, but just seeing some of the leaps, especially like the rookies, the second-year players starting to find their own. That's always one of my favorite parts. Like we spent all offseason like projecting new players on new teams, how they fit, borderline salivating over it. And then you actually get to see it in action opening night. I mean, you know it, your Thunder, I believe, right, playing the Rockets. Like I just cannot wait for that game.
I cannot wait to see what everyone looks like, what's everyone added. But there are teams on our list higher of priority for various reasons. Teams we're just excited to watch. And this does not have to be a contender list. It does not have to be teams that we think can win the championship. It's just about intrigue of like whenever you envision next week and you're loading up League Pass and you're watching the national TV games, like who are you just itching to watch? You mentioned the Houston Rockets. They're going to be in there too. Let's go to Jackson Gatlin to see why you should be excited to watch the Houston Rockets.
What is the most exciting thing about this Houston Rockets team this season? What's up? This is Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets. And honestly, the most exciting thing is going to be watching how Kevin Durant integrates himself in with a young core of up-and-coming star players like Alperen Sengun and Amin Thompson and the rest of the Rockets youngsters, a team that already won 52 games last season, right? Kevin Durant said that when he got here, his goal isn't to come here and be KD, right? He wants to fit in where he can fit in and allow these other young guys to continue to grow on their kind of star trajectories. And so seeing how a bona fide top 10 superstar makes life easier for these young guys, watching that two-man game grow between KD and Alperen Sengun and KD and Amin Thompson, and just watching that trio, that triumvirate, just slowly take the league by storm. There are going to be growing pains. There's going to be bumps and bruises in the road, but by and large, that amalgamation of talent is going to be so thrilling to watch play off of one another on a night-to-night basis.
I think that Jackson crushed it there. I mean, like, there are such interesting storylines to watch just of who is available. And he mentioned Kevin Durant being integrated into this team. Alpi, who looked phenomenal this summer in Eurobasket and looked as though he's made significant strides as still a young player, still developing. Thompson, Amin Thompson's going to be someone who takes a step this year. Now, he's going to also have a different role. And the reason why they found they were on my list, and they were also on your list, Gavin, of a Houston team that I'm very excited to watch is because prior to that Fred VanVleet injury, we had a clear-cut top three in the West all summer long, all preview season long of like OKC, Denver, Houston, or OKC, Houston, Denver, however you wanted to order it. And after that Fred VanVleet injury, there's now a lot of conversation around how do they survive this with their current guard depth. Can Reed Shepherd fill in? Can Amin Thompson really flash as a playmaker and try to replicate some of the scoring that Fred VanVleet could give Houston? That's where I'm most interested to see how Houston fares. Obviously, integrating Kevin Durant will be massive, but like, how can you get by now without Fred VanVleet?
It's such a good question. I want to touch on that. I want to touch on the KD angle, but we could start off with the point guard position, and Reed Shepherd gave a lot of people more confidence, right, with the 29-point game he just had against the Atlanta Hawks. Granted, like, Atlanta did not have their full roster out there. They did not have Dyson Daniels to just sick on him and potentially torture him. And I'm still curious for Reed, because, like, he was one of the more unique prospects we've ever seen in the NBA draft. Like, he literally did have a unique combination of, like, in terms of his shooting profile and his defensive playmaking, right? 3-point percentage, steal percentage, block percentage, usage rate combination. No player in NCAA history hit the numbers that he did. And in my mind, like, in a world where Atlanta did not already have Trae Young, he would have been the number one pick in last year's NBA draft. And now it's such an inflection point, and it is difficult for me to remember. Like, I almost have to go to the NFL, where, like, a ready-made contender somehow drafts, like, a stud rookie quarterback, and they have to go win the Super Bowl in year one. That is, like, not quite a fair analogy, because obviously there are just so many different guys on this Rockets team that can handle the ball. And on day one, Kevin Durant will probably do the bulk of it. Alperen Şengün can handle a lot of the playmaking. Amen Thompson is obviously expected to take a big step up in that capacity. But in terms of just being a rookie, I mean, not a rookie, but essentially a rookie, and a guy who played 12 minutes a game last year, over 53 games, like, a guy who's being asked to step into that big of a role with that much on his shoulders. And I'm so curious to see how he handles it. Like, you watch him in that Hawks game, and you see shades of someone like a Trae Young on the offensive side of the ball. And he's just not that quick, and it takes him a little longer to get into a shot. And I want to see how that translates against the best defenders in the league. And we'll get to see that immediately on opening night against one of the best defenses in NBA history in Oklahoma City. I want to see his ability to get to a shot against those types of defenses. Ironically, defensively, I don't really have a lot of questions about him. Like I mentioned, just the event creation, the defensive playmaking, 7 stocks, 4 steals, or I think 3 steals, 4 blocks in that game against the Atlanta Hawks. He's just incredibly exciting on that side of the floor. Such a smart player. I think some of the best hands of any guard in the NBA from day one. And then you just look at the other aspects of this team, the Kevin Durant angle, Rylan, like, I'll let you expand on this, but is this the best supporting cast outside of the Warriors he's had in his career? That's tough to say, right? I mean, the Thunder team that made the finals was so incredibly loaded. The Nets team, Zach Lowe, I know, calls them the best team that never was. Like, they were, like, I think, going to rollick their way to an NBA championship before the injuries to Harden and Kyrie. And yet, just in terms of depth and in terms of KD coming off a year in Phoenix where he still had to be the best version of himself, even without Fred VanVleet, I feel like so much pressure is off his shoulders, just because this team is going to be top 5 on defense, and they have so many different options around him offensively, especially with the way Jabari Smith Jr. has flashed this preseason, the way Alperen Şengün, to your point, has stepped up. It feels like there are going to be nights, and I think this is in some ways what KD has always wanted and why he went to the Warriors, where he can just fit in and he doesn't have to score 30. He doesn't have to take 20 shots. He's someone who's just been all about efficiency in his career, and I think this team will allow him to scale back and just lean into the best parts of his game in a really fun way.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. I mean, if you look at it from a supporting cast standpoint and the quality of depth and the quality of role players, it probably is his best supporting cast in that sense. Obviously, you know, it's hard to replicate the top end talent he's been around. I mean, Kyrie and Harden in Brooklyn, Russ, and then that's, you know, those seasons with James Harden, like, that's a little trickier, but, you know, those teams often lack depth whenever he was in OKC and in Brooklyn. So I do think that there's a case to be made there. And you mentioned their defense. I trust Ime Udoka to continue the trend of last year's Houston Rockets defense. But it is going to look different now. Like, whenever you play KD together with Alpi for a bulk of your minutes, it's going to look a bit different. And just seeing how Ime works around that is going to be very interesting. And interesting is not always like scary. It's just going to be fun to see how they're going to be a good defense, because I think that they will be a good defense this season. And to what degree can they just grind out these games? And I trust this Houston team to win plenty of regular season games. I don't think that the Fred VanVleet injury hinders Houston from being in the standings, a top 3 team in the West. But I think that in the postseason, it could limit them if we don't see a step forward from Reed and a step forward from Amen Thompson. And so watching that subplot will be very interesting throughout the postseason. So that's the Houston Rockets. We're very excited for them. Both of us are. Coming up, let's get to the Denver Nuggets, the biggest contender in the West besides the Thunder. Let's get to even some teams that perhaps are flying under the radar in terms of watchability, like the New Orleans Pelicans, the Charlotte Hornets, and everyone in between who we're excited to watch next week. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Wayfair. Go check out Wayfair today because Wayfair is awesome. You're going to want to get in on this action because the holiday season, it's going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe you need new serveware for your hostments. Maybe you need a refresh to your guest room with some new bedding. Whatever you need, Wayfair has it for you to make your home holiday ready. From Christmas trees to wreaths to bedding to cookware and even outdoor inflatables if you want to really light up the scenery outside your home. It's a one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection of every style, every budget, with free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. You can get everything you need at Wayfair. It is enjoyable to have because it's no hassle, free delivery, so you can avoid those huge delivery fees, and they have that free delivery even on the big stuff. So get organized, refresh, and ready for the holidays in a very, very affordable way, and also in a very hassle-free way at Wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Talk with Gavin Shaw, Locked On Knicks. I'm Rylan Stiles, Locked On Thunder. It's your Saturday duo. And without games this Saturday because the preseason is over and we're waiting on the regular season to begin on Tuesday, we're going through what teams we're most excited to watch. And Gavin, I've been gravitating toward these Denver Nuggets. I mean, this is a team that went out this offseason and honestly had the perfect offseason. Like whenever you really take a step back and look at the additions of trading MPJ for Cam Johnson, of getting Valanciunas in there for front court depth, Tim Hardaway Jr., bringing back Bruce Brown. But when you look at this team's roster management over the last few months here in the offseason, they executed it perfectly because of the resources they had available to them. Like when we were heading into the summer, there was a lot of question marks around how could they navigate this, and they did it flawlessly. And the improved depth is going to be a big point to watch in the regular season. I'm not going to sit here and sell you on Jonas Valanciunas as a playoff player. I think we've kind of seen how that's played out over the course of his career, and especially at this stage of his career. But the thing is, once you get to the playoffs, like he just has to be better than DeAndre Jordan was last year because Jokic is still going to play 45 plus minutes a night in the playoffs. So can he spell Jokic in those small little windows better than DeAndre Jordan could? I think that that's an easy yes, even for the flaws that you might see in Valanciunas' game. So whenever you look at the team overall as the Denver Nuggets, I look at a team that has one of the best starting fives in the league. And they still have Jamal Murray, Jokic, they still have Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, I think is an upgrade over Michael Porter Jr. I know a lot of people have kind of considered that to be a wash. I want to see if I'm right about that. What if it is a wash? So someone's going to be right in all of this with the Cam Johnson swap. I think that Cam Johnson, with his shooting ability off movement and the ability for Jokic to set him up and his ability to do some more stuff off the dribble, I think, than Michael Porter Jr. could. Like, I think that that's going to be a massive ordeal. And I think that these are the two best teams in the West, OKC and Denver. And I want Denver to prove that this year and have more regular season success than they've had recently. Like, I think that they should be a top 3 seed, not fall into that 4 or 5 game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think so much of their success this year ultimately falls on Jamal Murray's shoulders. I was listening to the Bill Simmons preseason over under pod, great watch. And he posed the question, like, is this the best team Jokic has ever had around him? And they were mostly kind of saying, yeah, or like saying like, well, maybe it was the title year. And to me, that is almost entirely a question about Jamal Murray, because like in the regular season, despite slow starts, despite a lot of hand wringing in Denver, the stats have pretty much been the same, like since his second year in the league. And then even coming off the ACL, like he was extraordinary during their championship run. Like I have it up right now. He's 26 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 47, 40, 93 splits. Like And he just, the last two postseasons, Rylan, he has not been the same guy. You almost throw a little bit of a caveat on last year just because they played the Thunder in the second round. And obviously that was an all-time great defense, and he did have big games. He did have big moments, but like, he's 28 years old. He should be smack dab in the middle of his prime. Obviously, there have been a lot of injuries. Like, can he reach those same heights? Because to me, that is the difference between a Denver team that is incredibly fun to watch in the regular season. To your point, they added all these guys, I think we talked about it the other week, that just are smart and know how to play off Nikola Jokic. And this is Cam Johnson's basketball nirvana right now, to be at this place in this time with Joker. He's at the peak of his powers. Aaron Gordon all of a sudden has a bag and is hitting like crazy step back threes to compensate for any dwindling athleticism there. If Jamal Murray can be the Jamal Murray of old, like, they are on the same tier as the Oklahoma City Thunder. If he's who he's been the last few postseasons, I put them more in a category with the Rockets, who we just talked about, with the Knicks, with the Cavs, couple other teams as secondary contenders. So much of it falls on his shoulders.
Yeah, a lot does fall on his shoulders. And we talk about the perfect offseason that Denver had. Another team who stole the offseason was the Atlanta Hawks, and Brad Rowland has us covered for why you should watch the Atlanta Hawks.
It's Brad Rowland, the host of the Locked on Hawks podcast. And the biggest question for the Hawks this season is, quite frankly, how the offseason moves actually added to this roster and what they actually are at this point. What I mean by that is the Hawks were a 500 level team last season. Despite some injury issues, they were a young team. It was a relatively encouraging season, but now they are one of the offseason darlings in the NBA. They've added Porzingis. They've added Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They've added Luke Kennard. They made a fantastic deal with the Pelicans that won't necessarily bear fruit this season. And you throw it all in the mix, and they're a consensus top 4 or 5 team in the East, but they haven't done that in 4 seasons. The last time they were at that level was 2021 when they went to the conference finals, and it's not a small leap to make to go from being a play-in level team the last several years in a row to being a clear top 4 team battling for home court advantage in the Eastern Conference. So what does Quinn Snyder have for them? What is Alexis Soleil going to be able to do in season if they need to add players? How will Porzingis fit? How will Alexander-Walker fit? And generally speaking, how will they respond to greatened expectations heading into the season?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the Hawks manufacture this season and maneuver through this season, because all the additions, I love them all. I love Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I love the shot on Porzingis. I love just even an offseason move in a way of getting healthy with Jalen Johnson, who last year was getting some all-star buzz up until his injury. And then you also have this Trae Young subplot of, like, okay, if you can't get it done this year in Atlanta, like, what does that mean for your future? What does that mean for your perception as a player? Like, what does that mean for your future with the Hawks in particular? So, Gavin, as the Eastern Conference guy, I look at the East and I say the top 4, after what we've seen the rosters look like for every team in the East, man, it should really be Cleveland, New York, Orlando, Atlanta. Like, that should be a clear top 4. Are you buying into the Hawks? How excited are you to watch the Hawks?
I am all in on the Atlanta Hawks. I had Brad Rowland on my podcast, and I kind of framed it to him as like the way I was seeing the East, where Knicks, Cavs 1 tier, Magic 2nd tier, and then Hawks in their own 3rd tier by themselves. After watching the preseason, and we always throw the caveat out there, you shouldn't overreact to the preseason. I'm overreacting, Rylan. I think they should be in that 2nd tier with the Orlando Magic. Almost, if it wasn't just for some doubts about Trae and just obviously like the kind of like just attack point he presents to other teams defensively in the playoffs. So you could say the same thing about Jalen Brunson on the Knicks and Garland on the Cavs. That's a common theme for the Eastern Conference contenders, and also Porzingis' health, and just the fact that this team is still young-ish in a lot of different spots. I would almost be ready to move them up to that top tier of contender. It's unproven, but I think the ceiling is there for that. Like, this team, it's similar to the Rockets, similar to the Mavs. They just look enormous. Like, you watched them come out on the court, and Dyson Daniels is 6'8". Ricoche looks like, he looks like he's 6'10" out there. Jalen Johnson is just like, people just bounce off him. Like, he is such a physical, like, coiled driver. And he's just, he is very, very comfortable in his game, getting to his spots, creative finishes. Ricoche like really, really flashed in that Rockets game where Reed Shepherd went out. Again, it was against the Rockets' 2nd unit, so take from it what you will, but his ability off the ball and finishing around the rim at his size. Dyson looks more aggressive, and just all the different ways they used KP and Trae Young in the 2-man game, right? Like you get to run pick and roll with those wings and have KP, who's like as elite of a corner big 3-point shooter as we've seen in the NBA over the last 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, really in NBA history. He's like such an like extraordinary outlet to have out there. You can run it with him and KP and just have KP short roll and hit an elbow jumper. Or you could run it with those two, swing the ball to someone else, and then KP cuts to the rim and he gets a lob. Or KP short rolls and then he throws a lob to Jalen or Dyson. And Trae is as good, him and Luka Doncic, of a pick and roll operator as there is in the NBA. I was wondering if there'd be any trade-off there, just because he was so incredibly dynamic with Okongwu rolling downhill last year. And Rylan, I don't think there's any trade-off. Like I think he can make that same magic work with KP. He is just an extraordinary passer, seems more comfortable operating off the ball. I just think if all the pieces click into place, and again, like Porzingis has to be healthy, but you said it exactly right. Like taking a shot on him, I love that because he was the accelerant to that Celtics team the last 2 years, and now he has a chance to do the same thing in Atlanta. And if he's out there, he's 100%. That team's going to be special. It wouldn't shock me if they beat the Cavs. Wouldn't shock me if they beat the Knicks. I think they could play with anyone, and they're the dark horse NBA title contender that not a ton of people outside of Atlanta are really focused on.
They're the dark horse contender. Who's the dark horse contender in the West for me? We're going to get to that coming up. But first, I want to say right now, by our good friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because the NFL season is in full swing. FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets. These across the app. You can do it on player props, spreads, over-unders. Anything you want is there for you to make these games more exciting. For football in particular, I like to use FanDuel on national televised games whenever my team isn't playing, just to add more stakes, add more entertainment to the game itself. But if you're only into the NBA, no problem. They have NBA lines out there already for opening night. Thunder 7.5-point favorites over the Houston Rockets on ring night. The history of champions playing on opening night might make you want to take the Houston Rockets and get in on that action at FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com today, go download the app and get started with your new customer. You're going to put down a $5 bet. If it hits, you get $300 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. We're here with Gavin Shaw and Rylan Stiles, the hosts of Saturday on Locked On NBA Game Night. Gavin, when I look at the West, this is a grueling conference, and particularly in the regular season for sure. You can debate how many of them can actually make it through the entire postseason. But one team I'm very curious about is the Dallas Mavericks. They head into the season with plenty of storylines before the season even develops all the way. I mean, they're going to miss Kyrie Irving to start the year. AD is AD. Like he whenever he plays and he's at the peak of his powers, he's a top 10 player in this league. But how often can he be on the floor? Cooper Flagg, like, is the guy that everyone was fighting for a year ago, and Dallas wins the lottery and they get Cooper Flagg after the Luka Doncic trade. This is a team that's going to play amazing defense with their size. What does this look like in Dallas? Let's go to Isaac Harris of Locked On Mavs to figure that out.
Harris, Locked On Mavs, answering the question, the Mavs will be blank when Kyrie Irving comes back. I think the Mavs will be in the play-in range, that group of teams. So like 8th or 9th. Let me just say, I'll say the 8th spot. When Kyrie Irving returns, I think the Mavs will be in the 8th spot. And I think Kyrie's going to return sometime at the end of February, 1st of March range. This has been my guess all along. Everything I've heard has been great as far as his recovery and rehab and all of that. And I'm a believer that I think D'Angelo Russell is going to be enough of a stopgap option while Kyrie is out. I think he's going to play some of the most efficient basketball of his career here in Dallas. He has the connections. He's played with a bunch of these guys before, and I think it's a good situation for him. So take that, Matt Moore.
Take that indeed, Matt Moore. That is something that Matt Moore has really been had stuck up his craw a little bit of if the Mavericks will even get Kyrie back this season. I think that they will. I agree with Isaac Harris. And that's the whole point of being in this tough West, is that, like, there's a real shot that things work out really well for Dallas to start this season, that they stay afloat. in this Western Conference standings. And then they inject Kyrie into things, and it makes their life even easier offensively. And it makes them just ascend into this team that is perhaps underseeded for how talented this team actually is after the Kyrie injuries is all cleared up. There's also a path in which, hey, if AD is in the street clothes for a lot of the first half of this season, and it's a lot on the rookie Cooper Flag, and now you're still lacking that playmaking opportunity from the rest of this roster, like what does that look like? Can they be buried before Kyrie even has a chance to return? How they're going to handle this season for Dallas is very curious to me. In my mind, this is a team that should be a top 5 defense in the league. Like that's how many defensive weapons that they have. That's the size that they have as well. And can they just figure out a way to grind out these games and scrap and claw and have these low-scoring affairs and get enough offensive production from AD and company to win these games and stay atop the Western Conference in that top 6 and that top half of the play-in? Like, can they do that effectively enough, Gavin, to kind of manage themselves until Kyrie is back?
Yeah, I think it's such a weird team because you love all the individual pieces, and at the same time, without Kyrie, they don't really fit together in my mind. And with Anthony Davis's insistence that he plays some power forward, that's a 10-year long narrative that's still going. But they're almost forced to on this team, right? Because you have Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, 2 guys who, like, I think we're ultimately both in our Locked On NBA top 100, or if not, we're both borderline. Like, you have 2 starting centers, and you have the one who should actually be starting, Anthony Davis, playing power forward. And defensively, it's insane because there's just so much size, so much length. It's so intimidating around the rim. And yet offensively, it's just going to be creaky. Like, I watched their preseason game the other week. I don't want to look too far into the sample size because Anthony Davis, obviously, will figure it out. And I think the next game he was spectacular, but you watch him airball a 3, clank another one off the side of the rim. And it's like, are those the shots you want Anthony Davis taking into his early 30s? Like, he should be around the rim, should be running a ton of pick and roll between him and Cooper Flag, ton of pick and roll between him and D'Lo. And you lean into just like the flexibility and size you have on the wings, right? Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, Cooper Flag, the 8 to 9 to 10 minutes they were out there in the game I watched were just absolutely electric, right? Like, chase down block after chase down block. PJ Washington was torturing a guy I hope we get a chance to talk to before the end of this pod, Knipple, like running him down to steal the ball, to block his shot. And then their ability to get out in transition, to run with Coop. D'Lo's passing can hit him on that like half court lob, or lobs like going backdoor in the half court. They are just like, they have the potential to be electric, but they also have the potential to be extremely clunky if they don't consistently get to their best lineups. And to Isaac's point, to your point, Kyrie will make it all make sense. It's just like, is it too late by the time he's back?
Let's talk some Knipple. You had the Charlotte Hornets on your list. Why are you so intrigued by the Buzz City crew?
I just think they're going to be like, I'll keep it short because I know we have a bunch of teams to get to, but I just think they're as fun of a watch as any team in the NBA, in that, like, there's still zero defense there, but they've, like, if basketball were somehow like your win total was just determined by your points per game average, like, they've built out a contender in that sense, but around LaMelo Ball, right? Because Miles Bridges has looked awesome this preseason. Like, he's shooting the ball really well. Khan, like, is obviously going to have growing pains, and they're going to probably give him a role that's like a little bit too big for his readiness at this point. And yet, in terms of just his pacing and how like decisive he is when he goes to the rim, obviously we all know about the jump shot. Like, I think he's going to be one of the more fun rookies in the NBA. And when he does get mismatches, he's going to know how to attack them. And then LaMelo himself, I mean, like, what other player in the NBA, right, is consistently taking 30-foot off 1-foot threes? Like he just has about the greenest light this side of Steph Curry in the league. The passing is just unholy. I said it last week, but you feel like someone dosed you with the psychedelic every time you watch him play. It's the Tyson zone, right? Anything can happen when he is on a basketball court. And hopefully we also see some next step forward from Brandon Miller. I'm not sure what they're doing with their big men. If they're competitive at all, they should make an in-season trade. Again, I question the long-term direction there. I just know it's going to be fun basketball.
I like that. And a team that I'm like that with is of questioning what their long-term view is, questioning how many wins they can even accrue this season. But I still am fascinated to watch them. I think they have a good broadcast, and I love Zion. It's the New Orleans Pelicans. Just they've been beat up all offseason for great reason. They've made some just terrible decisions in their front office. But I can't shake the feeling that I want to watch them play. And Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans has the exact reason why I'm so in on the New Orleans Pelicans.
Why should you be excited to watch the New Orleans Pelicans? Have y'all seen how good Zion looks? I'm Jake Madison, host of Locked On Pelicans. Zion Williamson, that's the reason. He's in the best shape of his career by far, looking like he did back at Duke. So while Locked On ranked him 47th in our top 100 players, when he's at his best, and it looks like he will be this season, he's a borderline top 10 player. Added a bit of unpredictability from Jordan Poole, Trey Murphy being a dark horse all-star candidate, and Herb Jones doing all the defensive things. It's a pretty fun team. Might not be good, but they're definitely going to be competitive and entertaining in every game that they play, and that's exactly what you're looking for.
That's all you're looking for. It's just competitiveness and entertainment, and the Pelicans can provide some of that. Jeremiah Fears is a guy that I'm excited about as well, so I'm very in on these Pelicans. Are you someone who's interested in watching the Pelicans, or are you someone who's like, okay, Pelicans?
Anytime Zion's on the court, I'm interested in watching the Pelicans. I mean, there's a reason we were so excited about this guy once upon a time. There was a reason we were so excited about him 2 years ago when he was in the middle of just destroying LeBron and AD in a play-in game before pulling up. I think it was with a hammy, right? And that was it. And we haven't seen that Zion since. But I mean, to Jake's point, at his best, top 10 is maybe a little rich for me, but top 15, top 20, I'm buying that. Like, he is as exciting as any single force in the NBA. The team is still, like, I'll use the same word I used for the Mavs, like clunky. Like, him and Messi, I don't think make a ton of sense together. And yet, like, they do have a good amount of shooting around him, right? When you have Herb Jones, when you have Trey Murphy, when you have Jordan Poole with his pull-up ability, you can't space the floor for Zion, and he can just roast people. And if he's playing at his best, if he plays anything close to a full season, like, they are just inherently one of the most fun teams to watch in basketball, because that's who Zion is. Speaking of teams where one guy is carrying, this could be my last one, because I know we're running low on time here, but I just wanted to quickly hit on our San Antonio Spurs. This is mostly about Victor Wembanyama. That's not to say there aren't intriguing storylines across the board with the Spurs. And Dylan Harper, like, he's a little young James Harden in him, just with his ability to exchange pace, like the core strength, the decel, the skill level. Like, I think he is going to be ridiculous. I don't think this draft will just be remembered as the Cooper Flag draft. I think it's going to be the Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe Cooper Flag. Maybe throw one more guy in there. Like all three. Ace Bailey is obviously looking awesome, but like Dylan Harper's sick, and he doesn't have to do too much, unlike Con Knippel in his rookie year. But man, Wemby, he just looks different. Like, it's getting, he's figured out just the pump fake long step to the rim. And it reminds me of when Giannis early in his career figured out, like, wait, I am bigger and longer and stronger than everyone else on the court. If I just get my footwork down, there's not really an answer, even if I can't shoot. And unlike him, Wemby actually can shoot. So when he goes to that baseline fadeaway, or he goes to it inside the foul line, like, I don't know if you caught that Pacers game, Rylan, the other night, but just some of his post-ups on Isaiah Jackson, on Obi Toppin, I'm reticent to call them post-ups because they were 10 to 15 feet from the basket. And he can just, if he gets under your arm and he takes one stride, he's at the rim, and maybe bigger, stronger, more athletic, like, center will be able to throw him off his spot a little bit more than those two were. But I just don't really know the answer, because you have to respect the shot. He went from taking 9 threes a game last year to only 2 threes a game this preseason. It's clear that he's trying to test out the post work. He did this summer with KG. He did this summer with Hakeem Olajuwon. And if that clicks for him at however tall he is now, 7'5", 7'6", like, it is just over for the rest of the NBA. And the idea of watching someone at the onset of maybe being a top 5 to 10, I just don't think that's crazy. Player of all time is why you are an NBA fan. That's why you watch the game, for those special players, for those special moments. I think we're going to get a ton of them from Wemby this year.
I like bringing up our Spurs, and without spoiling all the preseason predictions that we're going to have next week, I want to ask one simple question, a tease for Locked On Knicks. Spurs, yes or no, they make the postseason, play-in included?
Yes.
I agree. I'm going to have them in the postseason. Gavin, this was a lot of fun. Next week, it's for real, the regular season. We're going to be recapping games here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Until then, be good and be good to one another.